The Eurozone is currently in the headlines, and I asked François Pham-Quang from EFG what the prospects are for the common currency zone in the coming 12 months.
I'm not going to sit here predicting the breakup of the Eurozone. What I understand is I really feel that there's going to be much more volatility. I think you will have doomsday scenarios into next year. I think the European governments are going to have a very hard time with their local electorates. They're all facing elections before 2012. So I can definitely see the euro going down below 120 before it goes back up. Do I see a breakup? I'm not going to be a doomsday scenario saying it will be one, but there'll be huge pressure next year, much more than this year.
Where do you think the pressure is going to come from? For example, if we say that Portugal is going to seek help from the bailout fund, do you think that Spain is certain to follow them? And if they do you think they can handle it?
It's funny because I actually think Portugal, perversely, may not seek bailout funds. That's my personal view. It's been getting help from China. China is a big fan of Portugal because of Brazil, Angola, Mozambique, and obviously Portugal has gone to China to ask for bailout money. Spain may have problems. I actually think the problems will come from core countries. I see Belgium and France having huge issues. And I think that's where people are going to realize it's actually a bigger issue than peripherals.
What about the role of the politicians in the Eurozone? Do you think they've actually been helpful towards the situation? Because often it's come down to the ECB to try and calm fears.
I think they've had the luxury of being very magnanimous around the whole thing, being very united. I mean, tonight's meeting or tomorrow's meeting is going to be a non-event. I think next year they're going to have much more local pressures. I think you'll see them much more selfish around their interest. And I think you'll have a much more fragmented discussion around the euro. So I think politicians have been helpful up to now. I think next year, you know what, game's over.
And what about the UK? If we shift our focus to the UK, we've seen riots and protests there the last couple of weeks because of students seeing their tuition fees raised. What do you think the outlook is for the government now, as it is a coalition?
I was actually wrong. I was predicting a winter of discontent for December. There hasn't been one, although we still strikes to come. I really feel that is going to come. There's not been clarity around which cuts will be made. I mean, there have been cuts on local governments, but nothing's been spelled out. Liberal Democrats are losing support altogether. I think once it's clearly spelled out and the effects are felt, this student protest can grow much bigger. A bit like 68 in France, to be honest. I'm probably the only one that's very bearish cable, but I just don't think the UK can survive the way it is with the coalition.
But really wasn't the student protest the ultimate test of the coalition government, because it would have been very easy for the Liberal Democrat MPs to back out, but in the end they came through just. But
I still think that if you come a month from now, you'll see what have the Liberal Democrats done? Nothing. And they betray their own party, they betray their own faith. I think that is going to come back to haunt them. So I'm very bearish for the UK, actually.
Let's shift our focus across the Atlantic to the US. The US recovery seems to be gradually gathering steam, but there's still obviously concerns over the job situation. Do you think that the US economy is going to consolidate over the next 12 months?
It's been very impressive the way actually the economy has picked up. It's been, as everyone knows, a jobless recovery. I think Obama has actually done very good steps at the latest tax cut compromise. My biggest fear in the US that can compromise everything, this should lead to job growth, is basically tariffs. I mean, at some point, politicians are going to scream for tariffs to come in. Now, when that happens, whether it means more jobs for the US or then we will really know which way the flows have been going. But I mean, I don't think jobs will recover until something happens in that space.
So is this going to be a potential big theme for the next 12 months? Because you talk about tariffs, then you've got China protecting their currency, and countries like Brazil and Taiwan and Korea and Thailand all protecting their currencies themselves.
I mean, that is my biggest boogeyman, if you will. I mean, obviously everyone's talking about emerging markets being a positive thing. All the money's going to go there. All the QE2 money is going to go there. And I think at some point they're going to say stop. It's a bit like the Swiss francs, but they're going to say stop it. And that's when you'll see tariffs, more tariffs and currency controls. I mean, people think currency control is a thing of the 70s. It's not that difficult to implement. And let's face it, Asia had it 15, 20 years ago. So nothing can stop it from happening.
So a truly global picture there covered by François Pham-Quang. Stay tuned for a lot more to come on Dukascopy TV. Goodbye.